pass this bill as a roll call vote in the Senate. All those in favor, please stand. And then just for the county, all those stand for separate. You may be seated. All those opposed, please stand. And you may be seated.
Together to give them a place where they could have a central body to help govern rules, policies, and regulations to help address concerns in the African American community and in the Greek community as a whole. We have a ton of MPHC members here tonight. Y'all just wave your hands in the back who are here in support. Some of them will be trickling in and out. We have other meetings to go to. But we are really here to address, to express how grateful we are that y'all are even considering supporting the Legacy Plaza tonight. Representation truly, truly does matter. We so often hear on Auburn's campus that people come to campus and do not see anybody who looks like them and are not able to connect with anything that they feel comfortable with. And this is a way for not only our African American students, but students interested in Greek life as a whole to be able to see and highlight a community of people who have achieved so much. We just had the awards banquet, and I mean, over 400 hours of community service, chapters and members raising money for wonderful and glorious causes. And so thank y'all so much for even listening to us and giving us a voice to be heard. And we really, really hope that y'all will support it through Senate tonight. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to address the Senate body? Seeing them, we'll go ahead and move into roll call. Please be sure to click A on your eye clicker so we know you're here. And we'll make sure that everybody's clicked in before we begin. The minutes were sent out to you electronically last week. Were there any corrections or objections to the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes stand. We'll now move on to reports of officers, colleges, and standing committees, beginning with executive branch. Are there any executive reports?
Just two things to put on y'all's radar for those of you who weren't at the holiday dinner. First, ASME is SGA's biannual outreach event. I told you all about it last week. Daniel's going to be sending out the sign-up sheet again, which is a little sparse right now, so I would appreciate y'all signing up for any ships you can. Just find the station nearest your college. And then secondly, we have a town hall tomorrow. Failed to get handbills for each of you, but it's at 6 p.m. in this room. It'll be on parking and transportation, obviously something that affects all constituents, so we really appreciate you all being here.
Moving into reports from schools and colleges, beginning with at-large.
Dogs at large. Okay, y'all, obviously finals week is coming up, so please sign up for Up All Night and Priority 1. The cabinet, our counterparts on cabinet have been working really, really hard on that, so we really need to support that. And that's just like a great way to interact with students. It's easy to talk to them and get feedback, so please participate in that. Thanks all.
Agriculture. Business. No report. Coaching. No report. Education. No report. Engineering. Forestry and wildlife sciences. No report. Grad school.
No report.
Human sciences. No report. Liberal arts.
No report.
Nursing. No report. Pharmacy. Moving that on now. Moving into committees, beginning with executive.
Calhoun business. I'm sorry, I do have a report, so please listen to me for a minute. After this Senate, we have 5 Senates after the break. And I feel like some people are confused. Like your absences, your 3 absences you're allowed to have, that goes all the way through February. A lot of people are cashing in pretty early, so keep that on your radar. So if you are wondering about how many absences you currently have, please come ask me. I do have a document with all that information. I can give that to you as soon as possible. And please just try to go hard until the end of the term. Like I said, January, we have 5 Senates left, so please use that to our advantage. Also, over the break, we're going to have a lot of free time. Use that free time to work on legislation. That's going to be some time for you to really sort of not have to worry about school and really connect with constituents and different things like that. Y'all work with me, hold on. Okay, so it looks like tomorrow's Senate exec is going to be very crowded because a lot of you have not come yet. So please come to Senate exec tomorrow if you have not come this entire semester. That is a requirement. I will clear you in absence if you don't do that. Office hours. Okay, go sign the book if you haven't not done that for this past week, and I'll be sending out a Google form. And yeah, that's all.
Academic affairs. Is there anybody from academic affairs to report? No report. Budget and finance.
The engineering. Thank you to all y'all who came out for Ring Night. It was really successful, and then we have our Christmas party tomorrow, so we're really excited about that.
Code of laws.
Dinner, graduate school. So my committee, as always, keeping to work on the code. We've gotten, like I said, most of the things we wanted to have done this semester. There's still a few stragglers, but like Senator Calhoun said, we still have 5 Senate meetings, so I'm confident we can get everything done. Perhaps the most notable thing we're working on now, though, is, well, like I mentioned before, the rewrites of the auxiliary group section, which I've got, so that should be coming up early in January. But perhaps most importantly is we're going to be talking about the SGA Constitution in our committee meeting tomorrow, and likely proposing at least 1 amendment regarding voting. This is to allow that we can go forward with a bill that has been talked about. It was one of the first bills we talked about in our committee all the way back at the beginning of the fall semester on the issue of instant runoff voting. I may have mentioned this on the floor before, but just to refresh everybody's memory, that is something that we would very much like to pursue. But based on some wording in the Constitution, we want to make sure everything can go off without a problem. So that's something we're going to be talking about in my committee tomorrow and bringing to exec tomorrow as well. And so that expect to see something like on that issue on the floor in early January. Thank you.
Communication diversity.
Nothing human sciences. So had a great meeting time. We actually had our Christmas party today, and it was super fun. So thanks to all of my committee members for bringing food and being incredible this semester. Really appreciate it. So going into next semester, really kind of winding down, going to hone in on some of our goals that we have for the remainder of our terms. Also, cultural competency survey went live this week, so that's really exciting. We're looking forward to all the feedback that we're going to get about that project. I'm going to compile a report to give to y'all once we get that project wrapped up. And also, we have a presentation tonight that's going to be
their members to get out and volunteer and to support the community. So they've done some previous events like mental health and self-care forums, school supply drives, sexual awareness events, blood drives, donations, meet the greets, and then they also have done some super fun things like steps and strolls that help people who aren't really familiar with NPHC learn about their history of the organization and get to see some of their own personal little dances that they do. It's super fun. I got to watch one earlier this semester. So the concern right now is that the National Panhellenic Council doesn't get the same respect and treatment and representation on campus as the Panhellenic and Infraternity Council. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but NPHC organizations currently don't have their own chapter rooms like National Panhellenic does here on campus, and that's an issue that Inclusion and Diversity Committee has been working really, really hard on this semester to try to fix that issue. Along with NPHC organizations are unable to accept everyone without compromising the true essence and meaning and the principles and their beliefs. So their multicultural subcommittee in the Inclusion and Diversity Committee has been working with the Assistant VP of Outreach and Campus Relations, Jayla Coleman, who is here today. Yes, and we are so excited that we've had the opportunity to work with her. Jayla has done an outstanding job of educating me and Sierra, as well as the entire Inclusion and Diversity Committee, on the issues that NPHC is facing and having to deal with. And quite frankly, there are problems that no one should have to fight here on campus because others don't have to. So we are working on finding a solution to this, and what the resolution that will be hopefully passed later is the Greek Plaza. I know this is like super small, but I can try to zoom in and show up. I have like a sort of like an idea. Okay, it's not. I don't know if y'all can see this, but anyway, it will be something like this. We're hoping to put it behind Dudley Hall. I know this is really small, I'm sorry. Sure. So, here's me, I'll show y'all. But basically the plaza will have 9 spots for the Divine Nine to be represented here on campus. So even if they're not currently active on Auburn's campus, they'll still have a place here. And truly, I just think that's what's important, is helping everyone find a place and knowing that they matter here on Auburn's campus. And with that being said, I'd like to yield my time to Julius so he can tell y'all a little bit more about it and hopefully encourage your vote for the resolution later.
Hey, thank you. So I just want to echo everything Bree said. Thank you, Bree, and thank you to Madison for allowing me to speak on NPHC's behalf. The biggest thing about this project is we want to educate our student body on the history of NPHC, as well as promote inclusion, diversity, and minority recruitment on our campus. Specifically for African Americans, I have seen our percentage go from 14% to 5.8% in the 5 years I've been at Auburn. I'm graduating soon. So we want to highlight these organizations because these organizations hold up. There are huge stakeholders in our community, and a lot of students sometimes will base their college decision on whether an organization is present or not or represented on campus. And this will allow us to, I guess, work together as a community and promote these organizations and push them to the forefront of our campus and show not only the students on our campus but the community that we care about these organizations, we care about these students, and we care about a whole inclusive Auburn community. And thank you to Pearson for showing you all those pictures. So those are kind of like just a small representation of what they will look like. And we do want, so we were looking at an idea of having it behind us all due to the new project being that there, so that it can be a part of the tours, the student tours that are given throughout campus. And it's not in stone of where the location will be or what exactly it will look like, but that's kind of like a gist of what's being done on some other campuses, like Ole Miss or Appalachian State. So what I'm looking for you all today, is just a verbal support, nothing monetary. I just want, I want to get an aware to the student body what we're trying to do, and just overall backing and support from you all as a student body that you all want this just as much as we want this, and we'll be willing to step forward and put your best
Honors Congress?
No report.
Freshman? That is it for reports, so we'll go ahead and move into current orders, and now you'll call the first bill.
PSSB 18120301, Title I, Format for the Code of Laws.
This bill is brought to you by Senator Zinner.
Zinner, Graduate School. This bill was discussed last week. I'm sorry we don't have the projector, but just as a reminder, this is the very first chapter of the code, well, first two chapters technically, proposing a second, to Title I of the code, talking about how the whole code is laid out, trying to clarify some things, clean up some things, make it a little shorter where it can be made shorter, and also clarifying some rules that really we should be following throughout when writing the code. So I move to pass this bill as written.
Second. A motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye and click A.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted.
PSSB 18120302, Schools Council, Chapter 600.12.
This bill is brought to you by Senator Huntley and Senator Zinner.
Okay. Zinner, Graduate School. Well, this is both, actually, much of this was Senator Huntley's idea. I just have the notes right in front of me, so I'm speaking on this on both of our behalf. But this is basically a change. Both includes some cleanup of the section right here, 600.12, as well as a couple additional policies for Schools Council Constitution that we went over regarding gender-neutral language and the anti-discrimination policy. So I move to pass this bill as written.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion?
Madam President.
Senator Davis.
Davis Liberal Arts. So I just wanted to raise a couple concerns with this bill. I'm talking with just members of my student council about this bill and thoughts on it, because this is something that, of course, will affect them moving forward in the future. Just looking through this bill, I will first say that the heart behind it and the spirit behind the bill, I do support the idea of making sure that these constitutions that are put forward and amended by our student council or schools council should be abiding by our code of laws. And currently, the Graduate School Council is the only one that is stated explicitly in Chapter 600 that has to be approved by Student Senate. And I do like the idea of these constitutions and code of laws from the schools should be made sure that they abide by Auburn University's code of laws. But a few concerns with me. Just the language throughout Chapter 600 refers to the schools council director, which I think is a cabinet level position. And nowhere else throughout that chapter does it refer to anything needing to be approved by Student Senate. So I was unaware of this cabinet level position as schools council director, and if we want to have student oversight on these schools council's constitutions, that's something that we should look forward to in the future. But currently, I feel like this is something that's been laid out to be controlled by someone who is appointed, not these students who are voted on. And also, just the fact that when you think about it, while there would be no substantive changes to the schools council's constitution when they come before the Senate body, it would be simply probably like a support. Yes, it's kind of abides by the code, fine, or no, there's problems with it, it needs to be sent back. But this just has it just kind of reminds me of kind of an issue we had earlier in the semester with another appointed position, the Director of Elections, and the overstep that the Student Senate had that was vetoed by President Dane Block. This just kind of brings back memories of that issue that was raised earlier. So for me, I'm going to be voting no on this bill. I do like the spirit behind it, and I do think that our schools council's constitution should be checked to make sure that they abide by our code of laws. But currently, I don't think that Senate approval by senators who weren't voted on by people within respective colleges should have that say. So I feel like in the future, Chapter 600 should be revisited, the language in that, but that's just my opinion. If anyone else has opinions or answers to that, I would love to hear some of it.
Is there any other discussion on this bill?
Madam President.
Senator Zinner.
Zinner, Graduate School. Now, I understand those concerns, and I would be happy to discuss them further. However, one thing I want to clarify, especially because you said you made a vote no on this bill, is that this is an amendment of that rule you're taking issue with is very much a rule that exists in the present. Now, is it really enforced very much. No, the Graduate Student Council is really the group that has been the best about following this rule in actually getting the Constitution submitted, something I did earlier this semester with that organization. I haven't seen very many other schools' councils bring their constitutions to the Student Senate. However, the part we're striking out contains the same language. So the new additions from this bill are really in the form of cleanup and the rules that Senator Huntley and myself think would be good, both for a little bit of consistency within the schools' council and an anti-discrimination component. Talking about, there's no change whatsoever to requiring student senates to review these constitutions. That already exists in the existing code of law. So I'm a little unsure as to why that would be a reason to vote no on this bill.
Perhaps I misunderstood the language within Chapter 600.12 currently. The way that I read, each council shall submit an updated constitution to the Student Senate each time the representative constitution has been amended or updated for approval by majority of vote. I took that to understand currently as majority vote by your school's council, because that's the way that we recently amended our own constitution. So that's the way I read that, as majority vote by that school's council to amend it. That is what I was thinking. So obviously I must have had a misunderstanding there. That's not what was meant by Chapter 600.12.
Is there any other discussion on this bill? Senator Miller.
Does anyone know for sure about this? I mean, I kind of agree with Senator Wood. I don't really know what it's talking about in this. That's all I gotta say. I think that's a yes right now.
Is there Senator Miller?
Center Graduate School. Now I might go on for a bit because this is my second time speaking, but I am actually a little bit concerned about this because when I have read it, I have always seen it, as I haven't done in the past, as I have brought the Graduate Student Council Constitution to the floor here. So I'm a little bit concerned given this additional interpretation. Now, I don't know if that's something that different schools' council have talked about. I'm not as familiar with the Liberal Arts School Council as you would be, Senator Davis. I represent the graduate school. That's the schools' council that I know best. So that's how we've interpreted it. But given that there is this inconsistency in interpretation, of course, one could say we could send that to judicial branch for some clarification, which I would certainly not have a problem with doing, but perhaps it would be good to get an idea of what different people think about this before going forward. So I move to recommit this to the Code of Laws Committee, pending, so I could get a little bit more feedback from the schools council about what they're actually doing, what they think would be best, just to clarify this issue. Thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah, then Davis School of Arts. Reading it again, I guess the first time I read it, I just didn't. So as I read it again, a second, third, fourth time, I think I kind of understand that, yes, that language is in there, that it should be updated by a vote by the Student Senate. But like you said, that currently isn't being adhered to by. And I was just kind of like, I brought this forward my student council today. They're like, this is coming through Senate, glad you told me about it. So, and there was just some supported the measure, some did not. So I just feel like we should maybe reach out to schools councils better, and I just have lack of support from my schools councils.
As chair, I will recognize that during my time in Senate, I've seen two constitutions come through, so that inconsistency is there. A motion's been made to send this bill back to committee. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor of sending this bill back to the Code of Laws Committee, please say aye and click A. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, and that will return to Code of Laws, and we'll see again next semester.
PSSB 18120303, Title 12, Student Academic Honesty Code.
This bill is brought to you by Senator Zinner.
Zinner Graduate School. Well, this is one of the big ones that I've been working on for quite a while now. I gave you a pretty decent presentation about this last week. I hope you did your due diligence, reading through this carefully, going over the notes on it, speaking to your constituents about it, sharing with schools council if you could. But I really look forward to discussing this. But given the gravity of this bill, this is something that could impact just about every single student at Auburn, with a couple of sections of those mentioned in 1200.1. I move that we vote on this by a rising vote.
Is there a second? Second. A motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? Senator Carroll.
Carroll Business, I'd like to propose an amendment to the bill. If you can go to 12.0 or 1201.1.2. So where it says in the text, answers to any examination scheduled to be given at some subsequent date in any course. I propose to change it to say to be given at the current or some subsequent date. So just add at the current or. And this was just because, just for clarification's sake, so that no one can say, well, I gave someone the answers to a test on the current date, and the code didn't specifically say it wasn't allowed on the current date. It just said at some subsequent date.
An amendment has been made. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Senator Holland, any discussion?
Just to highlight the current board as part of it.
Is there any further discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of correcting this bill with this amendment, please say aye and click A. All opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. We'll now move back to discussion on the bill as a whole. Is there any further discussion? Senator Jones.
Senator Jenner, just repeat for the Senate body what content changes were made and then what changes were essentially just rewrites of the previous section.
Center, private school? Well, the entire thing I can tell you is a rewrite. I cut out 2 chapters, reorganized it, about 500, 600 or so words came out. So it's all rewritten, but I do have a list of the substantial changes, which I think was sent out, but it was in one of the executive minutes, and I'm really happy to go over this. Again, as a reminder for everybody here before we vote. So the first one was rewriting the student, well, rewriting, that's obvious. Breaking apart some of the longer existing sections and shorter segments, again, it's continuing on the rewrite stuff. Part of it was codifying the right for students to have an advisor of their choosing present during honesty hearings. Up until now, the Provost's office has allowed students to bring an advisor to hearings to help them through the process, but this is not currently mentioned anywhere in the code. This amendment, proposed amendment, would codify that right in section 1203. It also clarifies the timeline of contacting witnesses for academic honesty hearings. Previously, the code simply required that the Provost office be given adequate notice in order to assist students and instructors in calling on witnesses to bring to hearings. Now, this, in consultation with some people from the Provost office, we settled on specifying 5 days. That's better than, an appropriate amount of time. So that's another change in there. I also added a possible sanction of requiring a convicted student to go through a course on academic honesty. Again, this amendment is a codification of an existing practice, but it was never previously mentioned in the code. So very technically, if somebody wanted to argue, oh no, I don't have to do this, and now they might have at least some leg to stand on because that's not a sanction the honesty committee is authorized to give according to the Code of Laws, which is the only authority, as I understand it, on academic honesty in Auburn. I'm all for making people learn about academic honesty, so I think that belongs in there. It clarifies the section of suspension. This is one of the biggest changes. It refers to suspension as it is defined in the Student Code of Conduct. This means that the code no longer claims that suspension prohibits a student from taking classes at another institution during this period. So that's a pretty big one. And it also removes the required sanction of suspension for repeat offenders. So in the past, if you had been found guilty of an academic honesty case twice or third time, automatic suspension. Doesn't matter what you did, but...
Senator Zimmer,
yes?
It's time. It's 2 minutes.
Someone can choose to
Can
yield.
I propose the question? John's engineering, Senator Zimmer, continue speaking on what he was talking about.
So like I said, it removes the required sanction for repeat offenders, but it also keeps the sanction and actually really emphasizes this by moving it to the violation section, that the committee should be aware of a prior record of academic dishonesty when determining sanctions. So not saying that, oh, you don't have to suspend somebody on a repeat offense, but hey, this person has a history, maybe you should be a little bit more serious. they've been to this committee before. It's more likely that there was nefarious intent rather than a stupid mistake of someone who's been there once, twice, 3 times before. So we're still emphasizing that to the committee, but not mandating suspension. It also removes the requirement that honesty hearings be recorded on a tape recorder or mechanical means, instead allowing any means of recording. That's not, I hope, too controversial. That's just modernizing this language. I'm not sure how they record them now, but my guess is they're not using tape recorders. Also, it creates new guidelines for when an appeal is warranted, based on existing policies in the Student Code of Conduct. Now, under this change, appeals could only be considered if new evidence has become available, proper procedures were not followed during the honesty process, or a proposed sanction is seen as disproportionate for the violation committed. Currently, there is no guidelines whatsoever on appeals. You could write anything and then they have to send it on and it goes through all the proper channels and it wastes people's time. Again, this is not something totally original I came up with. This was discussion with officials from the Provost's office and is based on existing precedent in the Student Academic Honesty Code. So those are the substantial changes, and again, the rest is a ton of rewording, reorganization, but again, not with the goal of changing major content. So I hope that answers Senator Jones' question.
Is there any further discussion on this bill? Senator Dobbs.
Dobbs at large. I just want to stand in support for this bill after I've served on the Academic Honesty Committee and just being in committee hearings. I think it's really helpful to have the option of a suspension. If you think about also talking to students to speak about it, if like an example, I think this might have been given last week, but let's say someone makes a mistake on homework their freshman year, they come into the Academic Honesty Committee, they get a 0 assigned on their assignment, and then maybe they'll take the course on academic honesty, and their senior year, they're about to graduate, something like that, they come in, make another small mistake, and they're a second-time offender. So that's an automatic suspension, and it's not considered, like, you don't know what happened in the last case, so you're found guilty or not before you know if they're a second-time or third-time offender. And that I hope y'all will have confidence in the Academic Honesty Committee, just the professors who serve and administrators who serve on that take it really seriously, and I'm sure, honestly, students will probably continue to be suspended if they're a second-time offender, but if it's something small like that, I just think that this really gives our trust to the committee, so I really support this.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Stand and click A. All opposed, please stand and click B. The ayes have it, and the new Academic Honesty Code is adopted unanimously.
PSSR 18120301, Student Citizen Support for NPHC Legacy Law.
This resolution is brought to you by Senator Huntley and Senator Carroll.
Huntley and Human Sciences. So this is the resolution that has been talked about quite a bit at our Senate meeting this evening. I partnered with Senator Carroll to write this resolution, and we're so excited to bring it to the floor and really hope that you will support it. I didn't receive any questions about this piece of legislation, did you?
I did not receive it.
No, so we move to pass the resolution.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? Senator Calhoun.
Madam President, in regards to efficiency, I motion to remove Dr. Leith and the Board of Trustees from the CC. From the CC, and I would like to instead add Dan King, who's the Associate Vice President of Facilities Management, just so we can get a direct line.
An amendment has been made. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, we'll move. Senator Huntley.
Huntley and Human Sciences. Was Senator Calhoun have a question?
Senator Calhoun.
Yes. Why did you make that change? Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yes, because I feel like that's, in order to get to the president and the board of trustees, I feel like we need to go through facilities management first. Because I don't think it's necessary to have Dr. Stephen Lee and the board of trustees on there. Essentially, the resolution will be going to Dan King, the facilities management. That's fine.
Is there any further discussion on this amendment? to a vote. All those in favor of making this change to those copied on the resolution, please say aye and say nay. All opposed? Nay. Negative. The amendment stands and the change is made. Is there any other discussion on this resolution? Senator Turton.
I would just like to state my strong support for this bill. My support is coming from many different perspectives, but specifically an educational one. Throughout my time at Auburn, I've had the opportunity to work with many members of NPHC and various organizations, and I see the value in this, but I think that this Legacy Plaza would enhance Auburn for prospective students as well as alumni, but specifically for current students right now, and I think it would be a very strong addition to Auburn University.
Is there any further discussion on this resolution? Senator Payne.
Hey, now, is there any way we can make an amendment to keep student length and add Dan King just to have them go? I think Ada Ruth and Matthew pointed up for like a good reason, but I do understand Daniel's opinion on it, so if we could maybe leave a vote on there.
Second. A motion for amendment has been made. Senator Payne, that was to leave both of them, or to leave?
Yes, to bring back Dr. Lee from the Board of Trustees and then leave Dan King as well.
According to our parliamentarian, once an amendment has been made and the change has been made, we cannot reverse the amendment.
Okay.
Since it was voted on and passed. But we're getting clarification.
Okay.
Madam President,
Senator Jones.
Jones Engineer, can we just add Dr. Stephen Lee's name back instead of undoing that, just re-add it? Because we already added it.
That's what we're checking on.
Associate Vice President.
While we're getting an answer on this, is there any further discussion on this resolution?
Madam President,
Senator Jeter.
point of inquiry maybe, could someone from exec explain what exactly ceasing does on a resolution like this? What that timeline looks like?
Yeah, so once something's CC'd on a resolution, that is who it will be copied to immediately. So in the routing process, bills that are passed will come back to me, and then they go to Dane to be signed, as we saw with the veto a couple weeks ago. From there, it goes to advisors, and then it goes to administration. If it's anybody that's not in the routing process, there's a copy then given to them, delivered, and background and research is kind of presented along with that. So ideally, we kind of have gone back and forth in terms of who all is CC'd on these, in terms of efficiency, and just making sure that the right people are there. So, Brad, do you have anything, or Chris, anything you'd like to add to that? Explain. Is there any further discussion? Senator Zinn.
Zinner Graduate School. I just had a couple questions about it. I mean, to preface this, I am very much, like Senator Turton, in favor of anything when we can, if this is quite clearly something that the students want. We have quite a few students here today that want to see this passed, and I fully plan to vote for it. However, I did have a bit of a question as to, number one, why we would mention all 9 of these organizations when we only have, if I'm correct, was mentioned 5 of them on Auburn's campus now, or really ever on Auburn's campus, at least as I understand it. If these certainly 5 groups, I am 100% behind recognizing, but if we could go into, someone could go into a little bit more detail as to why the others that have no presence in Auburn. And the other question I have is specifically on the 5th whereas. It mentions specifically that this is particularly common, thoughts like this at HBCUs. Now, that sounds like a fact. That's not thing, but I'm a little unsure as to why that specifically is in this resolution, given that we're not an HBCU. It would make more sense to compare us specifically to SEC institutions, which we are, of course, doing in the following thing. Once again, I love this idea, especially if this isn't costing us any money. This is just saying, hey, let's pay a little more attention to these organizations who have played a part in Auburn University's history, and I'm all for recognizing important events and institutions, organizations in our history, and getting that information out to current students and future students. But just, if someone could clarify those couple of points for me, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Senator Foster.
Madam President, can I yield my time to Bree Thomas?
To Senator Zinner's point, excuse me, about why all 9 when we only have 5 active, we are currently in reactivation mode for bringing back hopefully all 9. And by the time we've projected that this is probably going to be a project that's probably going to take 10 to 15 years, by that time, it is exciting for us to have all 9 back, and it would almost be, it actually would be a disservice to leave off the 4 that we don't have active, as this is a move of unity for the entire NPHC, which includes all 9 organizations. And then I do believe HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, for those of you who don't know, HBCUs are cited because that's where each of the organizations in the National Panhellenic Council got their start and are rooted in their history. Thanks.
Senator Carroll.
Carroll Business. I'd like to yield my time to Mr. Alexander Hicks.
Thank you for listening to me. Just like Bree stated a second ago, it would be a disservice, but initially we had all 9 organizations here. That's what you have to remember, and this is a legacy garden. So this is to preserve, to show what we have, so we're moving forward with people. Because this isn't just on HBCUs. I've been to South, that's a PWI in Mobile. They have a legacy garden. It shows the perseverance that goes on throughout campus. That's the representation that goes on. It goes deeper than just like honoring them. It's the preserve, if you get what I'm saying. Like my organization, we're founded on manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. Perseverance is one of the things that we strive for. Because just after us, we've all been through our organizations, but there's going to be people after us. It's to show that we're still after them, if you get what I'm saying.
Well, technically, to my knowledge, I don't believe that you can re-amend something that's already been passed, but you could suspend the rules. So.
Senator Payne.
A motion to suspend the rules.
Motion has been made to suspend the rules. All those in favor of suspending the rules and going back on the amendment, please say aye and click A. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, and the rules have been suspended. Is there any discussion on this bill or resolution now?
Madam President.
Okay, can I make an amendment to add Dr. Stephen Lee and the Board of Trustees to the list, as well as Dan King?
An amendment has been made. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of adding the previously removed names back to those copied on this resolution, please say aye and click A. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, and the amendment is made. Are there any other motions wishing to be made while the rules are suspended? Seeing none, we'll move back to the rules being in stay. Is there any other discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye and click A. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, and this resolution is adopted. That is it for current orders, and we will go ahead and move into future orders.
PSSB 19011401, Chapter 202, Additional Executive Officers.
This bill is brought to you by Senator Ward.
This is a rewrite for Chapter 202.
last Senate exciting. I know it's holiday Senate, so a little bit more casual, but some great debate and discussion happened tonight, so I'm really thankful for that. I think it's been a great semester. Y'all have done an incredible job of researching the things that you're passionate about, talking to constituents, and making it happen on the floor. So it's been really special to get to watch y'all develop throughout the spring and then into this semester, and I'm looking forward to a couple more Senates in the spring, so we'll have 5 more, 3 before elections. So we're not done yet, so I'm excited to see what else y'all have the rest of the term. We do have a schools council meeting after this meeting, so just let's try and wrap up in here quickly. As was mentioned earlier, Priority 1 is going on this week, Up All Night is next week, and then a town hall tomorrow night. I would love to see y'all out at all of those events. Those are great places to connect with constituents and talk about things that are prevalent in their everyday life. And then, like Daniel said, free time's coming up. Definitely use that to get some work done, but also rest. I know it's semester, you just go. So enjoy these next few weeks to rest up and be ready to hit the ground running in the spring. I think that's it from me. Pearson?
Want to echo everything Skylar said, especially about Priority 1 starts tomorrow. It'll be out in the lobby by Foy from 11 to 1, and then it'll be in here on Wednesday and Thursday. So a great way to learn about mental health and healthy study habits, just taking care of yourself. You're in finals week tomorrow night at Town Hall 2, and then Up All Night next week. And just want to encourage each of y'all to really finish strong, get some rest over the break. And just remember that when we come back, you're still in your positions, and so continue to reach out to your constituents on bills and to just begin thinking about how we're going to either finish up our projects or be able to pass them on to the next group. So with that, that's it.
Yeah, a couple things real quick. Thank you guys, as Scott said, for a good semester. It was exciting for me tonight to hear a little bit of growth in making sure that you guys know what you're voting on. So thank you for the work that you're doing on getting better at that, because it's important. If you're going to send something to the Board of Trustees, it needs to be something that you're ready to defend in person if one of them were to ask you about it. And so you would never want to have voted on something and not be able to articulate why you voted on it. And so hopefully you guys continue to set the standard as we move towards a transition in not too long of a new term, and pass that on to the new group as well as what you guys have established as the culture of what SGA Senate, the level of care that you have in what you're doing. So thank you for the resolutions that we talked about tonight. Speaking of moving into the next semester, we will be checking GPAs in January, so make sure that you're knocking out those finals that you have coming up. And save us the trouble. If you are transferring to a different college next semester, instead of making us come tell you, hey, sorry, you got to resign, just let us know and step down from your position, because you've got to remain in the college that you're representing in order to sit in that seat, even though we only have a couple meetings. So let us know if that change is happening. We're going to let you know if we notice that your GPA falls below the 2.5 requirement. And so study hard. The last comment that I'll make is kind of back in regards to the schools council conversations we were having tonight. Just give you a little quick history. So long time ago, all of the school council constitutions used to be in the SGA Code of Laws. And over time, I'd say over the past probably 10 to 15 years, SGA has lost a lot of its connection with schools council. I just want to give props to Skylar and Pearson and any schools council members in the room, and probably some of you senators as well, of we're bringing that connection back together, because in the way that schools council is really intended to be used, it shouldn't be this group that is out there that we want to give them their space. They should be an extension of you guys. They should be an extension of the legislative and executive branches and what they're doing, in a group that we're working together with, rather than a group that needs to have all kinds of autonomy out there. So if you have questions about that, I'm glad that Code of Laws will continue to have a conversation about that. But just let us know. And again, props to the team up here that's working on bringing that connection back and trying to bring some more uniformity to what schools council is providing as an extension of this room. Have a great break. Thank you for the time that you put in and study hard.
Are there any other announcements this evening? Seeing none, go ahead and click out so we know you stay this whole time. And seeing as there's no other business this evening, we are adjourned. Yes.